how people on the table today are potential, like the chances that you guys are thinking audience is high. Maksudnya korang tengah tengok with a thinking mind.
Yeah.
Right.
But how much of the High Council audience are really thinking about the issues or just catching bits and pieces that makes them excited? Macam contohnya the ring fights or the terms that they use, or the things that make them look cool. Sebab kita, we're all critical thinkers, yeah? That's why we're having this conversation. But how many of this conversation is happening after watching High Council?
It just reminds me a lot when Euphoria first came out. Like, what did American high schoolers take from it? I feel like, unfortunately, it's just not something, and I don't blame the media. Well, media can play a part, but I feel like Projek High Council specifically, it's not necessarily their fault. Because, like, you are trying to make it obvious, but it's just people are not taking it as like something obvious, and it's like a systemic thing. I think personally, like while I was doing scholarship applications and like my friends were asking me and things like that, their answers were like very, if A is A, then A is A, and then B is B, like very linear and binary, and I think like that is something that we have to address in schools. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Okay, macam mana?
Like for me, okay, there's two parts of a reaction when you watch something. Kan? To me, there's the visceral reaction, and then there's the intellectual reaction. The intellectual reaction akan datang lambat. Sometimes years later. So, for example, maybe, and this is me being optimistic. Maybe orang yang tengok High Council really enjoy it for the visceral reasons will further down the years, because that happened to me a lot lah. Macam certain things that I liked as a kid, I didn't understood why, and tengok, oh, that's why I liked it. That's where the intellectual came in, because there's something about that lah, that it's sekali tapi it's separated, visceral and intellectual. Itu satu. And another thing I wanted to say is that I understand that certain things are happening in response to High Council coming out, and I agree that it stems from the lack of critical thinking as a culture when it comes to our nation lah, essentially. But I wouldn't say I'm undeterred after all this, because if that is the case, then I would argue that we will need more content that is that encourages critical thinking. Because what is critical thinking? Root word critical, right? So it needs to be something that you criticize. It needs to be something, in a way, kalau bahasa mudah dia benda yang tak berapa nak elok lah. So you need
comfortable things to talk about lah.
Yeah, and then the thing about benda-benda macam ni is that you cannot talk about it without displaying it in its full in glory. So I'm undeterred lah. So I think I'm making a stand. I don't know if it's the right stand, but my stand is to continue providing content that would encourage critical thinking. If it doesn't happen today, tak apa, but for a few years down the line, because that's how content is consumed tau. Because a lot of content ni macam masih dia keluar tu orang salah faham, bla bla bla, apa ni box office teruk apa semua, but then it comes a few years later when I guess society, and it's usually that. I'm not saying I'm of that caliber ke apa, tapi when it comes to films apa semua, a lot of these ideas are very new ideas that sebenarnya is beyond its time. But when the time comes and the society has progressed to a certain level, they will be able to appreciate it more.
Would you say High Council is part of your effort to push society to be more of a critical thinker?
Actually, that has been my strive since I started in the industry. The idea or the awareness that when it comes to our audiences, the critical thinking level, when it comes to consuming content is not really there yet, has always been at the back of my mind. And High Council actually is not tiba-tiba I just drop something as kasar as that. Because if you look at my filmography, the things that I've been doing has been increasing in complexity. The idea is you introduce, ni simple, and then you make it a bit more complex, so that because of this thing, and it has proven to have worked, the audience have grown a bit in terms of the ability to discern, and then you tolak lagi. So if you look at my filmography, it's not something yang tiba-tiba one day I just decide to drop High Council while being vanilla my whole life. No, yeah.
So like I wanted to ask you lah, do you think if you were to make shows yang memang in your face, positive message, in your face, positive things, would you think it will sell in Malaysia? Sebab, no, considering lah, masyarakat masih belum lagi like at that level of thinking. How do we then educate them and you know, make sure they don't?
I think we have way too much content out there that is already so nice. Everything is just so macam vanilla, right? I think we have way too much of those stuff, which why I think when first I joined the team, when Anwari was leading the team, I think what he was trying to push was aligned to, because I'm a film student, it's aligned to what I believe as well, right? Media is so powerful. It's a way for me personally to convey my message, right? So what I want to say. So what he wants to say is what he wants to say. But as a team, we have this one voice where we want to say something. And I think that's very important. So I rasa, I think to begin with, this team is not the greatest team to tell like vanilla nice things. Because we are not this vanilla nice. We are not vanilla people. We're like, I don't know what flavor are we, you know, but we're not. So I don't know how to fake it. I don't know how to be that. But I do appreciate these content creators are doing that because they're serving a certain. Some people watch stuff to escape, right? Watch films it's a form of escape, right? Not everyone wants to watch stuff and to think. Like, you know, some of us, we might be some sort of weird people, I don't know. But well, I guess that is why there's nothing wrong, right? Whatever that you want to do, if you want to do content that is just pure, happy, good-looking people, great. Because the audience for you kat situ pun ramai. But what kita rasa in Malaysia, maybe ada orang yang nak dengar what we want to say. Therefore, that's why we're doing what we're doing.
No, it can make money. Yeah, we all know which film we're talking about. Yeah, very straightforward. And I personally really have no qualms with how people consume their media. Because Ika is right. Media is so broad. And the whole idea is, I pun kadang-kadang macam Ika tengok Emily in Paris.
I need to watch all that. I need to know.
Kena bilas otak, bro. You know some things, yeah. So
masuk writer's room, fikir macam what it means to be a man. I need to watch Emily in Paris right now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm really glad I'm having this conversation because when I had this conversation with my team yesterday, I was just really pissed off at like Projek High Council. I was just telling them, you know, they just added jobs on my plate. You ingat cikgu tak ada kerja lain ke nak kena ajar balik budak, jangan gaduh, nak kena ajar balik budak. But now that I'm hearing your point of view and your intention, we do have a soalan daripada audience yang tanya, does the end justify the means? Like, does the end of, you know, teaching society about thinking about this, questioning them, does it justify the means of then creating a story like this that encourages also the side effects of the negative effects? So I believe in people cannot do no harm, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Everything we do adalah sedikit harm dia. Yeah. So does the end justify the means then to you guys?
If you're talking about the means being telling what is already pre-existing in our society, then I say, yeah, because it's not like we are creating a story out of thin air and purposely trying to glamorize it. No, it's almost docudrama reporting. Like you hear how Ariff talk about macam the accuracy of certain lines because we research, and when I say research, tanya kawan-kawan sekolah lain, where basically benda ni berlaku especially in all male boarding schools, and the only difference is they call it different names.
Yeah.
But you see now, cikgu-cikgu sekolah Ariff sekarang ada satu lagi tugas untuk menghentikan ring fight dekat sekolah dia. Sebelum ni tak ada.
Yeah, the thing, teachers don't even know that that's happening.
I think like I've mentioned, right, as a teacher, okay. As I mentioned, I'm a firm believer of exposure therapy. Yeah, okay. For example, okay, maybe it wasn't High Council. Because back then masa Juvana keluar pun orang budak pasal Juvana, and then because macam one, for me these things are not new. This is pre-existing, and then betul now there's something popular that maybe incentivizes something like that kan. Tapi for example, if students learn about their history, learn about what had happened in the school from before, they will go, that was so cool. You know, it's the same. So to me, I think it's important. Whatever is happening, the good and the bad, I think it's equally as important. Sebab that is how you learn. Yeah.
Okay, so Azmi, I want to know lah, kan, if there could be more stories being told in the media where our children are watching, the young people are watching, what kind of stories would you want more of?
First, I rasa Projek High Council ni pun because dia ada pakaian sekolah tau. Yeah. When they first start, dia pakai pakaian sekolah. Pakaian sekolah tu is the number one yang buatkan budak-budak kita semua nak tengok sebab dia pasal sekolah. So, and I think it is true that these kind of stories ni pun dia dah try to expand as far as they can. And that's why I was hoping continue. Sebab ada banyak lagi angle yang boleh. If you ask me kalau nak kata what are the things that we as society can learn, well, all in all, it's about the right value and culture that we would like to create. So sebenarnya it can be anything. It can be about sports ke, it can be about team of rugby players ke, apa ke, tak kisah. I wouldn't kacau dia orang punya creativity part. But I think it's about the value that they want to bring it out. And that's the one thing that I hope all would try to build it in. Because it can change with time. Sekarang macam ni, macam ni, but the value is the same. So selagi kita ada that value, InsyaAllah, I think will be, that's one thing worth looking at. Right now, I memang rasa congratulations, people are talking about it, is number one. Whether they understand, they got it right. Whether how they want to take it, is not your control. But to have that conversation, I think is the most important part lah.
Yeah. Like, I also believe that I love stories that are like, it's supposed to be uncomfortable, and Projek High Council is like supposed to make those uncomfortable conversations happen. Like, I am on the side of Alina, like being pissed off that Projek High Council was like existed while I was watching. I was like so mad, but like having this conversation also like really helped that like gain perspective. What was the objective? Was the objective just to show like this violence and then like student ikut balik? But that wasn't the point. And if that is the direction that you guys are going in, and I hope like more people take up the challenge to like create more content that is like not gritty necessarily, but it exposes what is already happening in Malaysia, so that we can have like more conversations about it. I think you mentioned just now like like we don't want to talk about it so much out of sight, out of mind kan, benda macam tu. So we have to, I guess you have to like show it, make people uncomfortable, and then hopefully that will push us to like talking about it and making changes. Because like you said, media is a very powerful thing to happen. A lot of countries you can see like based on their history, like how the representation in media changed like throughout the history and what message they're trying to push. And not just make like gritty like media, it's just like representation. I feel like is another reason why people watch it so much.
Not to make this political or in favor of any parties ke apa kan, tapi one of the things that has transpired since Projek High Council and because of High Council is that they are talking about it in Parliament. So that, and they're talking about it in Parliament in a way that I intended them people in general to be talking about it, where macam how do we solve this, as opposed to I really appreciated
Let's shut this down.
Yes, I really appreciated that response was macam, okay, this is issues that this series is bringing up and we acknowledge that they exist. How do we curb this, as opposed to cerita ni tutup. Tutup. Yeah, so I think that shows as a society that we are progressing also.
Betul. I think yang tu yang paling penting sebenarnya. I always think that it's not just the teachers tau atau counsellors yang banyak kerja. It's also parents tak fikir macam mana nak cakap dengan anak. Everybody kena relearn what they know and try new things, which is the best thing that is happening in our society. So dia bukan nak cakap orang lain kena kerja banyak. Tak ada. Benda tu dah jadi, benda tu dah ada, atau kalau tak ada, benda lain akan datang. But how do you want, in the end, my word has always been, how do you want our children to make good choices?
Yeah.
Itu je.
Because I think kids, or just when you're younger, you're curious, right? So of course, being an educator like yourself, the struggle where bila budak-budak dah now it's being exposed. Kids are not curious, right? They're now deciding whether they want to look at it and okay, aku nak jadi macam Kapla lah, or aku nak jadi the geng-geng jipam ni. Which side do I want to be? And I think you as an educator, because we are trying to progress, these kids are now, we're telling them, okay guys, it's okay to be curious. It's okay to ask questions. Now it's our turn for us, in order for them to progress, kita kena progress juga. And I think betul, dia akan rasa banyak kerja. Even for kita orang pun when we're in writers, kenapa kita tanya soalan susah sangat? Tapi because we are also comfortable. The fact that we only tell nice vanilla story all the time, but we are also pushing ourselves and our boundaries to open up few things that we don't even want to talk about. For example, me, I don't like to cry. Now I have to learn how to cry. And I have to do that because I want to progress, you know. And I think that's a part of progressing, is seeing what it is out there. And now we're in fact of just expecting other people to progress. We have to progress as well. And reevaluate balik macam mana we used to handle things now with kids or with students or whatsoever. It's our turn pula. What do we do? The court is on our ball. The ball is in our court. Terbalik, you all.
So I think I also want to add that macam again I've mentioned my affinity to young adult coming of age type genres and what are they about? They're about growing pains. And so the process that we have to go through all this negative reaction and people learning the wrong things out of it is also growing pains for me, for us as creators and for society juga, because I think unfortunately things is going to get a bit worse before they get better. Yeah.
So I'm also wondering, is this a thing among writers and producers today to be more progressive this way, or are we still macam chasing ratings? Because I'm still looking at our local scene, still Scandal, Kahwin 23, Gado-Gado, right? Like, but I'm also very excited to hear what you guys are talking about, because this might shape society in the future.
Well, I think I see TV and then media and entertainment as, at the end of the day, what we're trying to provide as all these companies like Astroka, Viewka, Peka, we're trying to create a catalog that would cater to different sides of society. And right now, the side that we're trying to cater to, kurang ada orang cater to, and we're happy to be in that space. So honestly, because I mean, I'm not saying that macam I'm super altruistic, tak pernah kutuk drama Melayu ni apa benda, because I think it's also a process, because I've been from there and understanding now, because in a way before, if it wasn't for the monetary gains or those dramas made for Astro wouldn't have the opportunity to experiment on this side. It's always complex lah, unfortunately.
Okay, right?
I think the fact that we both work in Astro for quite a while before we actually start doing things what we're doing now is to understand this audience. I think that's very important. And also by the end of the day, betul, we are trying to meet this in the middle. We're not saying we're not chasing rates at all because kita ada KPI. So by the end of the day, kita nak juga benda tu. But it's this different agenda that we're trying to push juga. So I think Astro, like Anwari said lah, kalau bukan sebab all this content yang Astro dah pernah buat before, they wouldn't be able to let us do this. Because sebenarnya ramai orang dalam industri, we're very lucky. We're given the opportunity to do that. But tapi tak ramai that are given the chance to do it. And I think that's why it's a whole cycle kan, you know. Dia kena work together lah in a way, yeah.